Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janine Vosper.
Hi, it's Janine Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. Today, I have Joan McEwan, and Joan, she's got an incredible bio of some of the most diverse things. So let me read some of these out to you, and you can learn a little bit more about Joan before we start talking. Joan was a registered nurse and has a Bachelor of Health and postgraduate in mental health, and she has worked in intensive care, surgical neurology, casualty mental health hospitals around Australia, as well as for the Royal Flying Doctors. And her feeling about being a nurse is that she absolutely felt honoured to be able to help people in their time of need. She's moved into different modalities in the scope of her business, what she does now, and has a diploma of naturopathy. She's a Reiki Master, and she has, on the business part of it, she has a diploma of business management. And coupled with her high intuitive abilities, she realised that she could work with people's energies and revitalize them to increase their vibration and help them heal and see life with clarity and purpose. And Joan also has had occupational health and safety roles in some of the major companies, BHP Billiton and Rio, and she's worked across an incredible amount of industries right across the world and global corporations as head of health. She has led major teams with managing budgets of over $20 million. It's not a bad budget to have, is it? And if you're having that in your own business as well. So throughout all of this, like most women, she has tried to precariously balance motherhood with her own 2 children and also trying to help her daughter transition into adulthood. She's had to nurse her mother until she passed away. And it's one of those things, isn't it, that we find ourselves sometimes in a role where we're mothering our children as well as mothering our parents. And she found herself responsible for an ailing father who required high care. And I know there's a lot of listeners that are in this situation, so it'll be great to just chat to Joan when we get there about how she managed that, and through all that, developing her own business, going from working from those global resource giants, and how that impacted and changed her life experiences, and particularly being able to help women in a male-dominated industry. She was becoming restless then, and then that's when she wanted to release those organizational constraints and be able to help to truly transform people in a very holistic way. And that's what prompted her to create her legacy by starting her own transformational health and wellness practice. And she now consults with heart-centric organizations to help implement their health programs, as well as mentoring and coaching high-performing women. I know there's a lot of high-performing women that listen to this, so this will be of interest. She likes to help ignite that intuition and light people up from the inside out. What a beautiful statement. And thank you. There's so much on there, Joan. Thank you for all of that. Welcome.
Thank you, Janine. Great to be here.
It's interesting that when you read through it doesn't matter, I'm the same when you sort of hand your bio to somebody and you then realize that, there was a lot there. You've done a lot and been able to achieve a lot, as well as, doing all the things that most of us women do, and the parenting and all those other roles. And congratulations with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to ask before we get into some of the things. How was it working with the RFDS?
So that was just amazing. So I'm Scottish, and we hadn't long been in Australia when we found ourselves up in the Kimbers in the first wet season up there, coming from Scotland to a wet season in the Kimberley, certainly very different. And I was working, I had 2 kids, but my youngest was a baby at the time. So I just done the odd casual But at that time, we were in the Kimberleys. I was the person there that had a postgrad in mental health. So obviously in the wet season, there was lots of people in the tribal communities that required some care and evacuation from their community. So RFDS used to fly in, pick me up, and off we'd go to the community. And under the guidance of the psychiatrist who covered the whole of the Kimberleys at that time, which obviously was massive. So he on the radio, supporting and guiding me. And back then, the RFDS planes were very small, and you could barely move when you were in them. And some of the retrievals were quite animated and liked to move a lot. So it was always really an energetic time. It was always so learning, and I learned so much about the Indigenous culture and the people. And no matter what situation they were in, they were always so grateful that RFDS could come in and help support them in some way. So I was really humbled that I got that experience. And it took me a while to get, I don't know if I ever got used to those small planes, but quite often on our return trip, we'd be flying over the bungalows and seeing that spectacular scenery from above, which kind of balanced the traumatic events that quite often we were faced with, the beauty and the rawness of the Kimberleys.
Wow, that certainly seems a very different experience than coming from where you would have been in Scotland. Just the enormity of it, and the landscapes and the people and everything would have been so different. That's part of any, coping with different challenges. Or there's a lot of people that have moved countries, or gone through divorces, or left really significant jobs, and it's all part of that change process, isn't it? That how do you cope with it, and how do you find the light at the end of the tunnel, as you did by looking out the window and checking out the scenery. And sometimes that's a bit of a metaphor, isn't it? Sometimes we need to do that, look out the window and check out the scenery.
It's very good, Jenny. Yes, absolutely. There's always someone worse off than us, and rely on us for whatever it is, whether we're a mother or leader in the workplace. But there's always someone watching us, needing needing some help in a way. So I think just embrace every moment.
And so there's been, as I said in the bio, there's been a lot of changes in working through corporate and then moving into your own business, and you're based on the Gold Coast now. But how was that step from, being in one of those top firms and, having those budgets and obviously having a large staff to work with, to, okay, now it's me and I've got these great ideas, I want to help people. What was your catalyst moment? Or was there,
Gosh, I think when I left that corporate world in my life for a long, long time, just absolutely exhausted, and wasn't aware of that until I came out of it and took a few months off to just unpack myself, to almost defrag like a computer, and really heal myself. Because what I found was, like many women, take on all these different masks to survive in the corporate world. Especially, I worked many male-dominated environments, so I tended to have to use a lot of my more masculine qualities to have that voice and be heard. So going into my own business was very much a healing for me, where I unpacked. I joined a thought leader school to help me understand how to unpack my thinking, my knowledge, and how could I best serve and put that to use to help others, so that didn't have to struggle or experience the same that I had, but also to shortcut them on their careers so that they could get rid of all the noise and just take the little nuggets I could share with them to accelerate their career. But what I found was that the focus around health and wellness, you don't really think too much about that when you're climbing the corporate ladder in your career, because you're so busy, you're so overwhelmed with everything that's going on, and you're just so no vision that you don't sleep properly, you don't eat properly, and you very rarely put yourself first, if at all. And the more that I unpacked and worked with ladies, found that their health was put on the back burner, or it was so low down in the priority scale that it's almost like they have to become awakened to the importance of nutrition, the importance of moving the body, the importance of the downtime, to actually give them more time to get that work-life balance. So I think going into my own business actually taught me a lot as well.
And it's such a different experience, isn't it? You know, I came from a senior management role as well, and then moving into, and I know for the first couple of months I was in a bit of a funk. I didn't know what or why, but it was just being out of that space, because I'm an extrovert, so having people around, and not just the clients I was working with, but that work environment, because it's such a different space, and you're responsible for so many other people and making decisions for other people and everything. Then when you're in your own business, comes back to you to be able to make all those decisions, and it's very easy to second guess. Is this the right thing to do? Is this the right way to apply my time? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? And I suppose what you're teaching about using your intuition and being able to identify that intuition is such an important factor when you're doing that, when you've got those big changes happening in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think, not having a large team to manage when I came out of that corporate world was almost a relief, because unlike you, I'm an introvert. So it was just so nice to just have that space all for me. But I think being a one-man band, sole trader, and all of the responsibilities fall on you, so all of a sudden you're wearing all these different hats. Like, I didn't have the IT department to call when I had some tech issues, and I didn't have the finance team to help me with the budget and things like that. So it's definitely a step change to come out of that corporate world where everything's provided, and you just need to provide your genius to, when you, as you know, going into small business, you provide your genius because that's why people want to work with you. But you've also got to provide all these other services. So I think that's what's helped keep me grounded and to keep me aware that, there is so much more to life. And looking at, because I work with holistically, so I've kind of looked at my business from a holistic perspective as well, so that I get that balance and don't start compartmentalizing things as you tend to do in the corporate world.
And how do you explain looking at your business from a holistic space? What does that look like?
So that's an interesting question. So my business is, here lots of people, you work for yourself, so you work 80 to 100 hours a week, and you never have time off. You work weekends and late into the night. So I really tried hard to discipline myself so that I'm at my desk at, say, 8 o'clock, and I try and knock off about 5 o'clock general. Obviously, there's exceptions, but it's about discipline. I'm very disciplined with my calendar, with appointments, so that do get a bit of that life balance in there, and so that I take my downtime. Like when I was in the corporate world, exercise just flew out the window because I had no time. But in my business, I actually have time scheduled in my calendar every day, so that I either go out on my bike, have a bike ride around the lake, or have a walk, or do go to yoga, do some kind of exercise. But that's part of my daily schedule, which until I work for myself, that never ever happened. I think I manage my time so much better and take time to smell the roses, because what I've learned through all my years in the workforce is that if you don't look after yourself, because you come number one, if you don't look after yourself, then everything else can fall apart and there's no one there to pick up the pieces. And the more that you look after yourself, the more energy you have. I guess my business is kind of a reflection on how I work with my clients, is that, no matter how good you are, no matter how senior your role is, you need to allocate that time for you, and it makes you a better person, and it certainly makes your team much more productive and happier as well.
Yes, I've always been an advocate of moving the body, of whatever that looks like, and was an aerobic instructor for 10 years. So I think that sort of lends itself to having that mindset. And sometimes through some years I've been more proactive at it, and other times less. But I know, when I was working intensely in that role, that I would maybe get my exercise done, but there were other things where I needed to, this is one time I needed to get some stitches out, and I went to see a doctor to get them out, and I waited half an hour. So I left because I just couldn't wait any longer, and got back because I had work to do, and then had to eventually find, somehow that someone could remove them from my neck as they were at a following time, which was stupid. But it was this whole time thinking, I've got work to do. I'm sitting here, I'm wasting time. And I think that whole wasting time mindset is something that's very, very common in people in high performing jobs, or even in your own business. And it becomes part of I don't know whether it was gifted to me by my mum, but this, that work ethic where you just don't sit around and you don't waste time. But I know a lot of people, when they start to feel guilty if that's what they're doing, rather than maybe this is the time to sit for a moment, or maybe it is the time to go and move the body or meditate, but it's allowing that time, isn't it? It's taking away that sense of guilt and responsibility and the word should.
And I think what neuroscience is teaching us more every day is that it's those moments of we go within ourselves and have that silence, that we actually unpack what's going on in our head, clear out a lot of the noise, to give us time to think about what is currently happening and what we need to do, so that we make better use of our time, instead of being that hamster on the wheel where we're constantly on the go. But quite often we're not terribly effective, and hence why a lot of our days blow out to 12, 14, 16-hour days. So I think what I've learned in my practice is, by taking that downtime, and it might just be 5 minutes, I sit and do some deep breathing, or a brief meditation. It gives me that time just to sort out. We talked the other day, Janine, about decluttering. And, that's what I like in the mind to be, when we sit in those moments of silence or solitude, where we can just dampen down all that noise, so that we can go, what is it that I need to do here? Or what's my agenda? What's my plan? just breathe, isn't it? It's just allowing yourself space to get clarity.
Yes, and that importantly that you said breathe. I think there's so many. Every time I, look up anything to do with mindset or stress or anxiety, the first tip is to breathe. It comes up every single time, and we forget to do that. Just take a breath and let it, even just that really big, let it out. That works well, doesn't it? It's that breath in it, and then drop it out. And yeah, you can feel that level of stress just releasing. It makes a difference. And time's such a big deal of it. We've talking about that prioritizing. And you have a statement that about people, about not just prioritizing themselves, but before they fall off the bandwagon. And I read that something that you had. So what does that mean when someone's falling off a bandwagon?
Okay, so what it means to me, it might mean something different to everyone else, but I see a lot of clients who, come and they're absolutely exhausted, they're burnt out, they're frazzled, they're, emotionally in tears. You just need to look at them and they're tearful. They're, they've got that anxiety happening. They're not eating well. They've gotten irritable bowel. And they're on edge. And of course, we know that what's going on inside us, we
Manifest
out to those around us. So people around us start picking up on all this anxiety and fear, and it makes for a very unhappy environment. But these women are just so exhausted. They're so just emotionally drained, and they haven't got the energy, the space to actually know where to go. And I tell people this story a lot. I had a friend. She was a very good friend of mine, and she was a chief financial officer. So she was a sole parent, had went to study and climbed in the corporate world, and had this very senior position, very responsible position. And she was that A-type personality where she just kept going, and so she was, had all these hats on. And then one day so she got married in this process as well. And one day her husband called me and said, "Joan, can you come round? I'll call her Susie in case she listens to this." And he said, "Can you come round? I just don't know what to do with her." And so she'd been in bed for 3 days in that fetal position. She didn't want to eat, drink, talk. She just didn't know what to do with herself. And that's when I say, that she's fallen off the bandwagon, because she put herself in such a vulnerable place because she just didn't know what to do anymore. And this was a highly intelligent, driven woman. So we spent, obviously time to get her back on track. And she needed a lot of support and a lot of services to help her get back on. But interestingly, what happens in that sort of 40 to 55 age bracket is that we're going through all the perimenopausal and menopausal situation as well. So on top of being that high performer woman at work, we've also got all this hormonal imbalance and change, and all sorts of things are happening to our body. And for many of us, it becomes so confusing and overwhelming that it just becomes totally overbearing. And sometimes we just have to go time out and hope someone comes to our aid. And fortunately, she had a really good husband who, mind you, it took him 3 days, but at least, he made the call and said, we need some help.
And do you find it's that I suppose getting into those top positions, having that A-type personality tends to be a requisite. And also I work with people who are perfectionists, and I find that they are the ones that really struggle with things as well. So do you find that with the people that you work with, they're a lot harder on themselves as the perfectionists and that A-type personality and then that means then they're harder on themselves if they go off the fall off the wagon. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I think as women, we are incredibly hard on ourselves. And I think, a lot of it's from our previous beliefs, our values, the way that we've been brought up, the expectations that we think people have on us. And I think in our journey through life, that gets all a bit mixed up because we don't have the time and we don't do the self-care. And I think we get to that point where we think people will think less of us if we are less than perfect, or we might not get the next career position because we are not 100% perfect. And I think, that's probably in a lot of our DNA, especially if we're an A-type and we've grown up in that family where we've had to, overperform all the time to be seen, to be heard, to get that recognition. And I think we probably fall harder with having all those preconceived ideas. But I think also what it does is it creates an environment around us with our teams or with our business, and that people become fearful because they struggle to be 100% perfect. And so they start feeling less than adequate, and that puts a whole different slant on the team, and so people start doubting themselves, their own abilities, and they start burning out too because they're trying to compete with the leader who seems to be this amazing indestructible woman, but in reality many of us are just crumbling inside and just throwing out a lifeline and saying help. But because they feel that they're a role model, and they think that if they're the perfectionist and they're the best that they can be, then people will model against them. But by the time we're there, we've kind of lost that humanistic softer side to ourselves, where we're more intuitive, we're more caring, we're more empathic, and we can create that balance with our team, with our peers, that allow us to be less than perfect, because it doesn't mean being less than perfect means that we perform any less.
No, it doesn't. And I that sense of, am I deserving of being who I am? I know we had a conversation last week with some people in a group, and we were talking about the imposter syndrome, and that is, and one of the people in the group, for the listeners, was working in corporate, and a lot of people in the room were in their own business, and this person in corporate was really amazed that people in their own business still felt that so strongly. This, am I good enough? Do I really deserve to be here? And am I going to be found out because I'm not necessarily the expert that other people think I am, but usually you are. It's just that it's that belief system of going, who are you? It was interesting conversation, wasn't it? That perception of owning a business or working, it happens right across, that sense of deserving.
Yeah, I think for women, it seems to be part of our inherent DNA that we've allowed people to overshadow us, and there's whole lots of patterns and our belief systems and things. But the minute that we start to become fearful, whether it's about a presentation at a meeting or about a project that we have to deliver on, but the minute that fear gets in the way, we start doing all that self-sabotaging, and I think the more robust that we get, the more that we can climb out of that space, because I think it's a learned behavior to stop being fearful and stop doubting ourselves, and stepping into our power and going, I am deserving, and I am the expert in my field, and but the perfectionist has to move so that you can then give space to say, I might not know everything, but I can find out, or I can refer you here. And it's about just having that open, honest conversation to say, leave it with me and I'll come back to you. Because I think people more so now, especially we've got these 5 generations in the workplace now, and we've all got different needs. But I think it's about showing up and showing people that no matter what stage you are in your career, you can never know everything.
No. Gosh. I have a line, I usually say, look, I don't know everything, and what I don't know, I'll just make up. It's because there's no way. I was working with a group this week, an amazing group of people, where we're talking about confident communications, and had some wonderful feedback from one of the people, and that was what we were, that was the hope, was that everyone would be more comfortable in being able to communicate. And this person said that she had been afraid to say when she couldn't do something. And now from the training, she's quite comfortable in going, I can do that, but I can't do that. I'll need help with that. And it's just wonderful to see that she realized that she didn't lose any of her power by doing that. She possibly gained more, because she didn't have to get into a situation of anxiety because she couldn't do the thing that she was expected to do, rather than just being able to communicate it and then get the assistance or the clarity that was required and get the job done. And it was just, it's wonderful. And it's amazing to recognize that, hey, ladies, we can ask for help. Whoa, that's a big thing, isn't it? That's
because it's seen as weakness, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a great light bulb moment, isn't it?
Oh, it was just wonderful, and it was an amazing result of what we went through with the training. And not just that not deserving, but I'm sure that you've come across a situation where people self-sabotage themselves as well. So it's not just I don't deserve this, but here's proof.
And I think a lot of that is, the way we've been conditioned. And I think what I see is the younger generations, the X's and the Y's and the Z's, they're much more confident within themselves. And I think, they're teaching, as baby boomers, and that, there's a way to go through life with not self-sabotaging yourself, and trusting and knowing that you're doing your best, and that's enough. Because as long as you try your best, then why should you start self-sabotaging yourself and bringing in all these fears and limiting beliefs that are really holding you back? Because at the end of the day, I think we talked earlier about, we're all energy. And when we start to be fearful, it impacts our energy, and that lowers, and that's when all these self-limiting beliefs get to come in there and throw out all the good work that we've done and the way we feel about ourselves and the way that we show up every day. And it sets us back. So we're constantly, 2 steps forward and 3 back. And I think that, yes, it takes practice. And, many of us are still stuck in that self-sabotage and disempowering ourselves instead of going, well, this is me and I'm empowering myself, and yep, I'll come along hiccups along the way, but let me just acknowledge it and pop it off to the side or make a note that I have to do some work there. And instead of beating yourself up, because 9 times out of 10, people aren't aware around you if you've messed up or got something wrong, but it's that belief of ourselves. And that's why, and you probably do too, Janine, but I work with lots of women who really need to work on that identity part of themselves to go, who actually am I? And what is it where are my strengths and what can I build on? And stop looking at, what are my weaknesses and my areas that hold me back, and stop putting the energy into them and using the energy for all the positives in your life. And step by step, that allows you to blossom into, the woman that you really want to be, that you feel comfortable in your own skin.
So yes, and it's a lot covered in that answer, and thinking about, so that's part of how you help women do exactly that, is through using the alternative health modalities like Reiki, but also the mental health experiences that you have. Is that a combo of those things that you work with?
Yeah, to be honest, I've learned a lot through my career with all my studies and the work I've done, but I work now on a model that we look at the mental, the physical, emotional, and spiritual, because that's all those components are part of us. And I feel that we, throughout our lives, we become that bit disconnected. And I was only talking to someone the other day, and I was explaining to them how I had a spiritual mentor and we were doing all this work. And this lady said to me, oh, so you're going into the spiritual realm now and changing your line of work? And I said, no, I'm actually going deeper into health and wellness, because spirit is part of us. And when we get disconnected and stop listening, then it causes imbalance in the rest of us. So I guess it's just a reminder to me that we need to have that language around using those words, because they're no longer those woohoo words that we hear about energy, excuse me, and those things. And it's about really recognizing and honoring all the different parts of our body. So, yep, diet's important, exercise, meditation, taking time out, self-compassion, understanding what your beliefs are, your values, and aligning with what is important in your life. And really, I think the clearer that we get on ourselves, the more growth I see happening, because when you start looking at the total body, it becomes such an exciting journey, because you can actually start implementing things and seeing the change. Like I give my clients a little checklist, and it's very simple about, how is your mood today, and do you have a headache, and what was your sleep like last night, and get them to measure these things over a 4-week period to get a baseline. And most of them have never thought about, their erratic sleep. They might only be having 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. And they've never thought about how that impacts the detoxification of the body. And then they go, why am I putting on weight when I'm not eating anything? And in fact, when you're not feeding the body, as you know, then the body stops working properly. So it's about, just having that well-oiled machine, no different to when we take our car for a service and the technicians, fine tune it and oil it and make it all squeaky clean. That's our job for our body as well.
No, it certainly is. And it's such a great subject because it's so important to have all these components. And when people ask me about what's the We Are Women podcast about, and I say that it's about health. It's about business health, physical health, emotional health, and I'm going to add spiritual health now also, and have interviewed people who have contributed particularly in that field. But it's that health and wellness of everything and every component of our lives, because it's getting that balance can mean that we have the energy to do something, or when we come into a stressful situation, we've got the resources to be able to cope with it and not cause dis-ease in the body by doing so. So Joan, 3 takeaway points. We're coming to the end. It's been a really interesting conversation. The things that that you definitely want people to take away and go and do, or add to their daily life, or to think about in their lives.
Yeah, so 3 takeaways. I'd say the first one for the body, really pay attention to what your body's doing at this moment in time. And even if you just look at how well you're sleeping and go to bed at the same time each night and wake at the same time each morning and get that routine happening, is super powerful and starts to reset a whole lot of systems in your body. The second one would be your mind. Now, we all have monkey chatter in our minds, and the key to being successful and sustaining success is being able to regulate that chatter. So the best way to do it is either through regular breathing techniques, mindfulness, meditation, whatever works for you, but at least 5 minutes every day, and make that a habit that you do so that it just becomes part of your routine. And that allows you to defrag and give yourself space. And then your soul, it's about giving you permission to listen to those whispers that come through, because we're all intuitive, but so many of us don't utilize those abilities to our best advantage. So I like to encourage people to just listen to those whispers. And it might be, many people say, oh, I had a gut feeling, but I didn't listen to it, and now look at me. Or I seen that, I keep seeing the same sign coming to me with a message on it, and it's the same message. And instead of going, what does that mean for me? Because generally these are our intuition talking to us, guiding us to give us some support, because we don't need to think that we have to support ourselves all the time, because we've got this innate knowing inside of us that is helping us as well. So for many people I know, they're still shut off there, but we're all awakening now. And I would just say, trust that gut and be playful with it, and just test it out. And each time you do it, you'll get that bit more confidence, and the validation that what your gut's telling you is actually helpful.
Yeah, that's so important. And they've discovered that the gut is a brain. It has a brain, and there's 7 brains in the body. I think I've done something like that on one of the other podcasts, and the gut has brain. So it gives the information around to the body through chemicals into what the rest of the body is meant to be doing. So it's no wonder we get that gut feeling. It's really interesting. And just as a sideline to what you've said then, we get about 32 million bits of information through at any 1 second, and our body could not handle that. So our nervous system filters it down to about 132 bits of information. But when something's important to us, it becomes something that we'll see regularly, and that those signs may have been there all the time. But because they become part of something that is either sitting in our unconscious, our reticulated activating system is identifying it, and we're seeing this over and over again. And yes, take action, and or at least think about what that means. But if you continually to see something, it's not that all of a sudden those things have popped up. They've been there, but now they're on your radar and they're important to you. So yes, definitely pay signs. And I usually, if there's something that I go, oh, okay, right, I've got it, thank you very much, and deal with it. Because what I've noticed with other people who haven't necessarily paid attention, they keep getting slapped with things, and then eventually something big slaps them until they pay attention. So ladies, pay attention to the signs.
And quite often, if you don't pay attention, it starts to manifest in disease, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And we start getting sick or break a leg or take to bed for whatever reason. So it's much easier to listen to the messages than to get sick.
Oh, look, 100%. I know I was getting vertigo quite a few years ago. And what was I? Out of balance, wasn't I? Thank you. I've got it. It took me a little while to get it, but once I got things back in balance and did a lot more soul searching and just looked at things, right, okay. And each time I think I'm getting a little out of balance again, then my body goes, here's a reminder what that feels like. And I'll go, and then that's when I usually go, thank you, I've got it. Right.
Off I go to work.
I'll pay attention. Yeah, absolutely. How can, if people want to work with you or they want to get in touch with you and see how you can help them, how can they get in touch, Joan?
Okay, so my website is joanmcewan.com, and all my information's on that and all my programs. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Joan McEwan, on my Facebook page, Joan McEwan, and Google Business as well. You can contact me there. You can leave messages on my website, and I can get back to you there.
Excellent. And anything you want to add before we wrap up?
I think I just would like to reiterate to all the ladies listening is, health and wellness is critical for our success to sustain our success. And when we embrace our health and wellness in all facets, that's when we start to transform, step into our power, and be that true expression of who we're here to be and who we really want to be. Because again, it's going to that gut feeling of, we know that we're here for something special. All of us are. And it's about stepping up to go, I'm ready to do the work. And so I encourage everyone, just one small step at a time, to know that you are good enough and you are enough to be the amazing trailblazer that you're here to be. And that's why you're listening to this podcast. Absolutely.
You are enough, definitely. Thank you very much, Joan. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. It's been fascinating. And that's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. So thank you very much for listening. I'd love to have your feedback into the points that you got out of this particular podcast, so please leave a note and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. 5-star reviews are always absolutely wonderful. You can find me at janinebosper.com. If there's something that you're not sure of, or there's, you're moving through business and you'd like some ideas, then please, just anything, go to if I can't help you, I know so many people who can. So go to janinebosper.com and book a free strategy call. I encourage you to do that. Love to have a chat and see if there's anything I can help you with. I will see you or hear you, or you will see or hear me with my next guest on the next episode of the We Are Women podcast. Bye-bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janine's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.